Someone who knows those in the hunt ears in Western New York very well is our guest on the Western Hotline, Matthew Coller, proprietor of PurpleInsider.com. Matthew was kind enough to have me on his podcast weekly through the season to talk fantasy football. So I thought, Matt, we would just do that to warm up.
That sounds like a great idea. Actually, when the in the hunt graphic pops up, like that's one of my favorite insults for a team is like, oh yeah, well they'll be in the hunt graphic on Thanksgiving, and we'll be able to dismiss them by then because they'll be like the last team in the hunt. I think the Vikings last year were 4-7, and they were still getting the in the hunt graphic, and it was like, boy, that would be a heck of a hunt if they were able to somehow find a way to make the playoffs.
Exactly. I'm the 11th best team in the AFC. I don't want to be on the screen. I want to have some pride. Just take me off of there. All Minnesota did, by the way, to that example, is basically win out, right?
They went 4-8 to start the season, and then they were officially eliminated, and then so they couldn't even be in the hunt. And then after they were out of the hunt, then they won 5 games in a row. But it was, not the most impressive stretch of wins. They faced, I think, the 3 worst defenses in the NFL. And then if anybody can name who started for the Packers in Week 18 at quarterback against the Minnesota Vikings, I'll buy you a Tim Hortons cup of coffee. Any guesses?
No, I'm just going to pass on this one. This is good. Tell me.
Clayton Tune was the starting quarterback. Yeah. So, it actually reminded me of that time when Doug Marrone got to, I think it was 8-8 or something, and it was a meaningless game, and the Patriots weren't playing Brady, right. And then he acted like that was a huge victory for them.
And then he quit.
Yeah, and then he quit. Yeah,
they were 8-7. He wanted the winning record for his resume. He knew he was going to quit, right?
Possibly because an AM radio station made fun of him too much. I'm not sure.
It could. That's one theory. Well, Matthew, it's great to talk to you again. And here the Bills headed for Cleveland tomorrow for joint practices. You've been around these. Are you a fan of the joint practice?
I know who is a fan is coaches are a huge fan of the joint practices. I mean, I think that it's fun to see, like, Lamar Jackson is coming here tomorrow to practice against the Vikings, and that is super cool. I was in the great Berea, Ohio 2 years ago and got to see Myles Garrett and Christian Darrisaw from like 40 feet away, and that's insane. So being able to see that versus just kind of the same practices over and over again, there's way more juice, there's way more energy, a little pushing and shoving goes on, but the guys are really playing. And also with the death of the preseason, where, my gosh, I would have rather been doing anything than watching the preseason game the Vikings played in the other day. My eyes were bleeding. Like, in comparison, like, this looks like the first quarter of preseason games used to look when they do these joint practices. I just wish that more fans could see them because, in Cleveland, I don't even remember if it was open to fans. For the Vikings, maybe 2,000 people get to show up. I wish they would do these in stadiums and put them on TV and everything else because they are way more entertaining than any preseason game that's going to happen.
I was talking to Sal Capaccio earlier, and he's like, one thing that coaches love about these practices is they can set up situations. I'm like, well, Sal, if you tried hard enough, you could do that in games too, right? I take the kickoff, the landing zone, whatever. I'm at my 30, and we just want to work on red zone. So you're going to let me walk down the field 50 yards, and I'll just take a knee, and then we'll just go from there. What do you think? There you cover all of it. You have the fans there. They can see the situations. It's controlled in a certain way. But, no, it's ridiculous because we want to bet on these games. That's what matters most. We can't bet on games like that. Right, Matt? That would be crazy.
That would kind of be like the Pro Bowl or something. And by the end, we'd be like, can we see if we can toss the center the football and see if he runs around and whatever. Yeah, I mean, it really does feel like essentially a UFL game with the Vikings clothes on because you get to the third and fourth guys so fast. And I know there were a lot of people leading up to this last preseason game who were like, let's see if J.J. McCarthy has taken the next step. And then he threw 7 passes, and like 4 of them were bad. And it was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Am I supposed to rip the quarterback to shreds for his 4 passes? Like, I don't know. With the backup team, and it is unfortunate. I don't really want an 18th game because I think that NFL players strain on their bodies is already absolutely insane. But, I mean, they could chop this one down in the preseason by another game if they wanted to.
You're going to get that 18th game whether you like it or not. I mean, it's inevitable. Which, by the way, is what Roger Goodell called a team playing stationed somewhere outside the United States in the future of the National Football League. Inevitable. Really, that's not the word for it. Really, it's up to you, isn't it? This is within your control or the owner's control whether that's going to happen. It's not like it's sort of natural law that there be a team in Paris in 5 years. Matt, the Ravens coming in, that's a lot of purple. I mean, that's right up your alley, Purple Insider. You're going to have all your purpleness on point here this week, apparently.
Yeah, I never thought. Well, the intro was perfect with Bulldog talking about being purple, but I never thought that I would need maybe like another person to cover the other purple. It is going to be really interesting though, because we saw Kyler Murray throw maybe 3 passes in the preseason game and hand off. And then they basically talked about, I'm not even joking, like having him just put on the jersey and the helmet and like walk out there. And that's about as much as they could get out of it. So we get our first real look at him practicing against another defense, and the defense is run by a new head coach in Jesse Minter with the Ravens, which I think is a fascinating dynamic there, where I think that it had probably gotten a little bit stale, and their defense last year was nowhere near what we usually expect it to be with the Ravens. So their folks are kind of coming in looking for how does this defense perform against Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. We're kind of looking for, does Kyler Murray look comfortable? And so far in training camp, I think that he's looked about as good as he possibly could have coming to a new offense and performing with Justin Jefferson. But it is a little bit different when you're going against a defense that you don't know. And we did find out last year that there was some game planning that went on between the Vikings and the Patriots in the joint practices, which may have impacted the results a little bit. So I guess we'll have to get the scoop on whether they've been forming a game plan for this one for Kyler Murray or not.
That'll be your job. Matthew Coller, Purple Insider, proud, I want to say, hopefully, WGR alum. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off this week. So I want to ask you about, like anybody would, with Murray, just sort of how the timeline played out there. Because it felt like maybe 5 minutes between, we don't know what we're going to do. Nobody's really showing all that much to, okay, he's the starter. Is that just sort of like the media machine doing its thing and working on me, and I might have misread that? Because there really shouldn't have been that much indecision right before they announced it. What do you think is really what happened?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, what I did, I tried to come up with a system to track every pass so we could more objectively decide on how the guys performed, which is, of course, I'm sure Sal would tell you, completely ludicrous because we have no idea what they're trying to accomplish on a given play, but we can see the results from the media tent. So, and just by the tracking of the actual success of the passes, it really wasn't a close competition, and it wasn't close the entire time. But Murray, right before they made the decision, had probably his 2 worst practices. And so I think that combined with the, I don't even know what to call it, absurd love for J.J. McCarthy that exists in this universe. I've never seen a quarterback play so badly and be so beloved. I mean, I know that every quarterback has his group of people that'll defend him to the end of days or whatever. Mm-hmm. But for a quarterback to not really be very good in college, then not be any good at all in the NFL, and have people still like faking that he's performing well in practice, which I just thought it was no different really at all. The inaccuracies, the slow processing, all that stuff still existed. And Kyler came in and looked like a pro quarterback from day one, got rid of the ball quickly, completed a lot of passes, didn't make a whole lot of mistakes. And it was like, yeah, okay, that's what it's supposed to look like. And then, I mean, there was more of a question for us, the people who watched every single practice, of why did it even go on as long as it did when it was obvious that McCarthy was not taking huge steps forward? And then, the decision's made in the outside world. I see like NFL Network guy being like, how dare they do it, call it this soon. And like, huh? What? Okay, sure. I mean, look, I think that it was reasonable for O'Connell to want to see, did my 10th overall draft pick from 2 years ago take a big step forward? Because if he did, that would be awesome. but it would have had to have been an enormous step forward in order to beat out a guy who's thrown, 3,000 NFL passes. He's taken a team to the playoffs. At one point in 2021, Arizona is 10-2.
Right.
So it's like this guy has won in the NFL before, and I know there are questions about him, but this is a much better organization than Arizona. So, I think that Murray has looked the part, but I also get why O'Connell would want to say to Kyler Murray, if part of your reputation from the past is maybe you don't study the hardest, then I'm going to put you in a competitive environment and kind of force that a little bit. Maybe that's too big of coach brain, but that was kind of the idea that I got. But I didn't think there was ever really a chance that McCarthy would be better than this guy who's performed at a high level before and was the number 1 overall draft pick once upon a time.
Fair enough. I have one more question on Murray, but what, bottom line, Matthew, was the mistake on McCarthy? Was it just the ever-present franchise quarterback thirst that teams drafting as early as Minnesota then? It's not like Minnesota has been, the Cardinals or one of these teams that's drafting top 5 all the time. But still, there's always that. You need one, then you draft one, no matter who he is almost. That's not really right, but you know what I mean.
That's right. You're right.
Is that what happened? Were they just sort of, okay, well, we need somebody, so did they just sort of trick themselves into thinking that he was good or what?
Well, I think 2 things happened there. Number 1, shout out to the Buffalo Sabres. The Vikings didn't tank in 2023 when they knew Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels were going to be in the draft. And they lost Kirk Cousins halfway through the season. If they had lost all the rest of the games after Kirk got hurt, they would have drafted Drake May, and I would have been talking to you about the Super Bowl champion Minnesota Vikings. So that didn't happen. And they end up drafting 10th instead because they had to win a couple games with Josh Dobbs for some reason. And they came down to 2 quarterbacks. It was either the younger quarterback with better tools, which is J.J. McCarthy. His arm strength is outstanding. He's a great athlete. Or Bo Nix, who was more of a finished product coming out at 24, 25 years old. And it was just one or the other. And they picked wrong, but they decided we're going to bring him in. We're going to develop him for a year. And then, we're going to transfer over him to be the starting quarterback. We'll just have this transition year with Sam Darnold. And in 2024 training camp, he absolutely looked the part. We saw all the tools, all the skills. He was in a good place with his development and everything else. And then he got hurt. So they had to kind of make a bet on where he was halfway through 2024 training camp. And they bet completely wrong. And I think the biggest thing was they believed in themselves way too much. They thought they were the reason that Sam Darnold had all of his success. Turns out that they were not the entire reason that Sam Darnold had his success. So they thought, we'll just do it again with J.J. McCarthy. But the problem was he was too immature to handle the pressure. He was way too inexperienced as a guy who only threw 700 college passes, was only 22 years old when they were trying to have him take over. And he also can't throw the ball accurately, which last time I checked is a pretty big issue. And if the only example you have of a guy turning around accuracy from college to the NFL is that 6'6" monster that you guys have, well, that's not great to compare to a 10th overall draft pick who his tools are good, but they're nowhere near what Josh Allen's are. So, I think it was a lot of maybe belief in themselves is probably the overarching theme there. They wanted to be able to build the strongest team around him. They thought they couldn't do it if they re-signed Sam Darnold, and they forgot the most important part, that quarterback, that's going to drive your success or failure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I respect it at least to a point, because Dobbs and Mullins, right, another one, it kind of it gave you the impression that it didn't matter so much who the quarterback was, which is a dangerous slope right there. But I know from playing fantasy, when it came to Justin Jefferson, I didn't think there was any way it could fail. And then it did. So, it's sort of human nature for them to maybe feel like they could just overcome any sort of struggles. The Bills are in Minnesota Monday night, week 9. That I think is November 9th. And you've told me that'll be like a real circle, that game on the Vikings schedule. The Bills, interestingly, have 5 NFC games, as of course, but they're all at night. All 4 games against the NFC North, and then their extra NFC game, if you will, at the Rams is also on a Monday night. Bills and Vikings in Week 9. On Murray, Matthew, just quickly, I need him to run if he's going to pay off in fantasy. Is he going to run?
I think so, because I think that he just runs no matter what. I know that throughout training camp, like your main idea is for him not to run. So there's a lot of probably even negative plays that fans have seen in the stands or us where there's absolutely no way he would actually throw the football. He would have just scrambled. But I will say, I looked this up on True Media, is like this huge data resource. He had the fastest speed leaving the line of scrimmage of any quarterback in the NFL in 2024. And the couple of times where we have seen him take off, it's insane.
Yep.
The speed that he still has. So I don't think that has dropped off at all. I don't think his play style's dropped off. And the biggest thing with him that's always an issue with the height is that he can't always see the field. And that's how he's always made up the difference with the scrambling. So I think that's going to be there. And I would also think that for your fantasy purposes, his connection with Justin Jefferson is going to be huge, which we have seen in spades during training camp. That's probably the part that won him the job as easily, in my opinion, as it did. It was like once he started hitting 4 or 5 passes to Jefferson a day on the mark, it was like, okay, well, we don't need to see much more than this since J.J. McCarthy threw it 50 miles over Jefferson and hit the guy selling popcorn in the stands a bunch of times last year. So I do think that everything is sort of clicked in for Murray to look like he could be a quality starting quarterback for this team. It's just, he's got to stay healthy. It's got to happen. They got to protect him, all that sort of stuff. But he's going to make plays. I have no doubt about that.
Well, I love how this sounds. My only question after whether he's going to run, I mean, you can see Kyler Murray in those fast feet getting out of the pocket and finding some open field in his Cardinals days, is like when I think of Jefferson, I mean, he's as good as there is. When I think of Jefferson, what's the play that comes to your mind's eye? It's like a 15 to 20-yard crossing route. And he's separated, or he wins a contested catch, and, maybe there's not a flaw in his game at all. But that's the play in my mind. And that's the play that Murray gets criticized for not being able to make, is the play over the middle because of his height. And so I hope you're right. I mean, I want there to be that fit because, I mean, we know how good they both can be numbers-wise at their best. But I got to see Murray work in the way that Jefferson works best. Or are they just going to – is Jefferson so good, Matthew, that it's just going to be a different-looking route tree for him or something?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both because they have been working a ton on that exact throw that you're talking about. They hit one yesterday. It's been pretty regularly a completion for them. Of course, that's not with real defense and real pressure and all those things. But he has been able to throw it. And that's the thing is when he does throw it, his numbers are pretty good. He just doesn't throw it enough. Also, Justin Jefferson didn't play for the Arizona Cardinals, so it's hard to, make that. But we've also seen a lot, I think, of emphasis on the quick game because he was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL in his career on throws that don't go, 9 yards, which I think I always took for granted. And after watching last year with J.J. McCarthy, I will never again take for granted how hard it is to execute those quick game things. But we've seen a lot of like Jefferson 7-yard outs where it's just perfect timing with Murray. Takes the snap, one step back, and bang, hits that type of play. We've seen some more slants, which I know O'Connell has never really been a huge fan of. So I think that there's been this to talk about O'Connell. Can he really adjust his offense and so forth? I think we've seen a lot of it so far. And it will come down to whether he can execute it. But I do think that O'Connell's doing a lot to deal with the fact that Murray obviously is not the tallest guy in the world.
Last thing, we are drafting Jordan Mason out here on the presumption that he's going to be the most productive Vikings running back. Would you make that prediction?
I would, yes. I think Mason has looked great in camp. I actually think he looked great last year. He averaged almost 5 yards a carry. The only thing is that they really, really, really trust Aaron Jones in pass protection, and they really trust him to catch the football. So is it going to be a 50-50 split until, I don't know, Aaron Jones gets banged up or something? But I think Mason, the way he runs the football, and if he can even just catch swing passes, I think he looks like an RB1 to me that should get support from Aaron Jones, but I'm not sure because, coaches can be this way where it's going to be the guy you trust. So if Mason makes one mistake in pass protection, it's like, oh, get Aaron Jones back out there. That kind of happened a number of times last year. But, I do think Mason has the juice, and they have put more emphasis into the run game. They drafted a fullback. They have built up their tight ends to have a blocking group. They have added a guy from Miami as a coordinator to come in and work on the run game. Like, they've done a lot here. They are aware that if you try to make Kyler Murray throw 700 passes, that it's not going to work out that great for you. So I think the run game will be emphasized more than ever, which should be on the shoulders of Jordan Mason.
Well, you just saw one point you just made in that game you saw between the Giants and Vikings where Tyrone Tracy might have missed the block. I mean, there was some sort of mix-up, and 2 days later they're signing Najee Harris. Right? You're going to get our quarterback hit, we're going to do something else, and that's on a lot of these running backs. James Cook, even. You can lead the league in rushing, thank you, and still really not get that kind of trust from coaches to play on third down. All right, Matt, it's been a pleasure, and we'll talk on your podcast soon, I guess, right? It's coming.
Absolutely. Fantasy we should probably get going. It's fantasy drafting season.
I'm on tonight. I've got another radio spot tomorrow night. We're going to do Thursdays this year. We got to get into that Thursday groove where we've got, games that night so we can talk about, over-unders and different things. Can't wait for all of it. Thanks for joining me today.
Yep. Thanks for having me, man.
Matthew Coller, Purple Insider. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN reports that the Bills are signing veteran defensive tackle Greg Gaines, formerly with the Rams and more recently with Tampa Bay. No more details to my knowledge yet, but I was busy. I was talking to Matt. You heard it. We'll see what else comes along. Guys that are free agents right now, and the Bills from 2025 have a pile of them, they're just kind of hoping the phone rings. And I don't want to get too excited. It's interesting what it might say about the team's feelings about maybe injuries or its relative weaknesses. 803-0550 if you want to join me. Another new crowd of people saw the stadium today for the first time. I'm always eager to hear those sort of first impressions from the new place. I'm Mike Schopp.